and Prestera Academy. Welcome to this replay of the Pricing Pitfalls webinar. I apologize to those of you who had registered for the January 23rd session. We had to reschedule because of the snow and power losses and so forth. So, but I wanted to get this recorded and get this out to you so that you guys could watch it at your leisure, and feel free to share it with others if you like the content in here. So we're going to be spending some time, and I'm going to switch over here to screencast mode so that I can share with you the slides that I've got. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. All right, here we go. So, all right, so pricing pitfalls webinar. All right, so as far as agenda, countering the pricing pitfalls, building a pricing system. We're going to do a little peek under the hood at the pricing your services course, and then Q&A. Since this is a recorded session, what I'll do is ask you is please send me any emails with any questions that you have. I'll be happy to answer them. I can post additional responses either here or on Twitter or through LinkedIn. So anyway. So pricing pitfalls, you probably read the blog post that I posted a couple of weeks ago with 5 pricing pitfalls that I frequently run into. And as I've been interviewing other consultants, I find that they're also running into the same sorts of issues, even after many years of doing this. So the commodity trap is a big one, right? So this is falling into the trap of being seen by your clients as a commodity, offering a commodity service. And when you're a commodity, really your pricing is completely dependent on the market forces, right? When like the price of wheat and the price of oil, it's just dictated by what's going on with supply and demand, and you have very little control over pricing at that point once you are a commodity, and so you want to get out of the commodity trap. And so we'll talk about how to do that. Falling short of awesome. So you've scoped out the project, you've done you've started the project, you've done some work for the client, and everything seems to go okay, but the client is not super excited, and you don't get any additional work. And that could be for a variety of reasons. But what we typically find is that something fell off the tracks when it came to scoping the project. Not so much, sometimes scoping the deliverables, sometimes scoping the services, but oftentimes in scoping the risk and complexity of the project. We tend to often underestimate some of those factors. And as a result, we get in there and we don't act accordingly. And we haven't scoped it, and we haven't costed for it, and we're not prepared for it. And so we go in there and things don't go quite as well as they should. And as a result, we get sort of lackluster results. The client's okay with it, but they're not thrilled, right? And so that's not a situation that we want to be in. That certainly doesn't help us get out of the commodity trap, right? We need to have our clients be excited about working with us again and again if we want to be seen as something other than a commodity. The one-size-fits-all pricing, and this is goes back to kind of a rigidity in the way that we approach things. And when you were anything that you learn how to do early on, when you're not particularly good at it, and you find some way to do it, then you keep doing it that way. And if you're a carpenter and you're just getting started and you learn how to work with nails and a hammer, then you want to, that's your comfort zone, and that's what you're going to want to stick with. And so you may ignore that there are screws and screwdrivers and other tools that you could be using that could be just as good or better in some cases. And so you are inflexible, and that inflexibility costs you money. And so we're going to talk about, we're going to walk through an example of that and talk about how we can combat that. And then blindfolded on a bridge. So, this is really about not having enough information in order to price your services effectively. You don't know enough about your own costs. You don't know anything about what the client's thinking. You don't know about the marketplace. You don't know about your competitors. So when you're walking around blind, then it's very difficult to come up with pricing that's going to be effective for you and for your clients. So we have to take the blinders off, and we'll talk about how to do that. And then this is my price. Sorry. The statement reflects the lack of confidence, right? And this is how many of us, especially early on, but even throughout our careers, we're people pleasers. We are people who want to want to do right by others, typically as consultants, and so we don't like talking about pricing, and we don't like talking about ourselves and being boastful and so forth. And, that's what the salespeople do, right? The consultants are are a different breed. And so the pricing conversations can be uncomfortable for us, and they can make us nervous, and we can go in there and lose our confidence in that context. And so we're going to talk about how to combat that and how to build up your confidence so that you can be more effective in these pricing conversations. So these are the 5 pitfalls. Let's get into talking about how to combat them. So the commodity trap, really has to do with value, right? And if clients don't perceive you as having a unique value, then you are more likely to fall into that commodity trap and be seen as just one of the many millions or hundreds of thousands of consultants and vendors out there. And so if you have that many to choose from and they're all roughly the same or equivalent, then really the only thing left to compare on is pricing. And so we don't want to be in that trap. And so we have to look at the world from the client's point of view and try to understand, what do they really value, right? And so do they value your consulting capabilities, your services, your solutions? Yes, to some extent. But what they really value is what those things can do for them. So the outcomes, the results that have to do with growth, especially if you're in a business or a part of a business that's really focused on growing the organization, like sales, like marketing, organizational development, leadership development. These are areas of an organization that are focused on trying to grow grow the revenue and or grow the capabilities of the organization. So that's their focus, and so they're looking for vendors and consultants who can help deliver that kind of value that will help them grow. On the other hand, if you're working in a support staff organization like IT, HR, operations, they're very focused on productivity. They're trying to get more done faster and with less resources, right? Which is funny, but that's the truth, right? And so they need consultants who are going to help give them that sort of value, those kinds of results, right? Who can come to them with solutions and ideas that help promote efficiency. And so there's that. And then there's peace of mind. And so clients, and this peace of mind is actually something that oftentimes trumps the other two. If you're working with a consultant, if you're a client and you're working with a consultant and you trust that consultant and you know that they're looking out for your interests and that they're going to do a really great job and not drop the ball and make sure that they make you look good, that gives you a lot of peace of mind. And there aren't too many places where you can get that sort of peace of mind. So you're going to value that type of consultant much higher than you do other consultants, right? And when you start to value a consultant in that sort of way, you are willing to pay more for that peace of mind. So that that's where you start to get out of the commodity trap. And so it all goes back to the value, right? And in particular, the value proposition. In the Pricing Your Services course, we focus a lot on this. I'm going to take you through a real quick spin through the value proposition. Value proposition is more than just your capabilities. It starts with your capabilities. You look at what you can do, right? And then what specific kinds of services you can provide and how you do them and so forth. But then you have to think about, from the client's perspective, what results are they going to get as a result of your services? What value will they derive from it? And you need to identify what you think the values are that resonate with them, not the values you think are important to you, right? But you have to look at the world from their perspective. And then third, once you've identified some values that you feel are important to them, then you need to think about how your business, your consulting practice, is going to drive that value for them, these value drivers, or the approach that you're going to use that's going to be very unique to you. This is your special recipe, right? The Colonel's secret recipe for delivering whatever the value is. So let's look at an example. So let's say I build websites, right? I'm a consultant. I build websites. That's what I do. But I'm one of millions of organizations and individual consultants out there who can build websites. So what's my unique value proposition? Well, maybe my unique value proposition is that I build websites that help clients grow revenue, right? So it's not just that I build websites, it's that I can deliver the results for you of helping you grow your revenue. Now, that's not the only reason why people build websites. There are other reasons to inform and educate and other things, but in other cases, clients are looking to build a website because they want to grow revenue. So how are you going to do that for them? Well, that's where your value drivers come in. So in this case, maybe I have a proprietary search engine, that search engine optimization tool that helps me grow the client's revenue. I have templates that have been proven and tested to ensure high impact. And so that can help the client grow revenue. And I have a time-tested process that has actually demonstrated that it can grow client revenue. So I've got these three things there, and that combination of these three value drivers, that's my special recipe. That's my unique special sauce, whatever, secret recipe, whatever you want to call it. That's how I do it. And there aren't many other people who have this unique combination of approach that make up the approach, this unique combination that deliver these results in the way that I do. So now you're starting to create a unique value proposition for yourself. And then what that can lead to then is you could take this and certainly build out sales and marketing materials based on this value proposition. You certainly should do that. But you should also be looking internally at your business and saying, how can I systematize these things? How can I build these sorts of tools and approaches and processes and really build them out and turn them into something robust that's enhancing this value that I'm bringing to the clients, right? So if this is my strength, how can I increase my strength even more, right? And become the dominant player in this little space that I've created for myself, this niche, or niche, as some of you like to say. So that's a really critical piece of the pricing your services courses. We focus a lot on building your value proposition and then working that into everything else that you do. And that's going to help you fight against this commodity trap. Let's look at falling short of awesome. So like I said before, you've scoped it out, you've scoped out the deliverables and services and so forth, and maybe you did a decent job with that, but oftentimes we fail to scope risk and complexity very well. And so the factors that we teach in the Pricing Your Services course relate to culture. So the way that the degree to which a client's organization is collaborative, they're inclusive, and the pace at which they move. The leadership factors like power dynamics and how committed, to what extent do they stick to their decisions about things, how fluid and or informal versus how structured and formal are they. The timeline factors, the deadlines and milestones that you're going to need to achieve, the criticality, the flexibility that the client has. And then resource factors, and these are, again, within the client's organization, subject matter experts, SMEs, that you might need to have access to, or other resources that you need from them, source materials, internal cooperation from other members of their organization. How easy is it going to be to work with them, right? And that's what a lot of these factors have to do with, is how easily will I be able to execute this project that's in front of me with this organization, given what I can find out about them, right? And to the extent that I can gain some insight into these different factors, and I can begin to gauge how easy or difficult it's going to be. And if it's difficult, I can start to plan for that and say, okay, what would it take in order to work with this difficult client and to accomplish these difficult deadlines and so forth? And what's it going to take and what's it going to cost, right? And so you can factor that into your budget and factor that into your planning so that when you get in there, you have a better chance of being successful. When you don't factor these things in and they come out of nowhere and surprise you, then you're caught flat-footed. And then what tends to happen is, because you didn't plan for it, you didn't account for it in your budget, you react poorly to it, and you get by, but not in a very elegant way. And the client sees that, and the client sees that you struggle to get by, and they'll be okay probably with how it turns out. I'm sure you'll make it work out in the end, but you'll just get by. And that's not awesome. That's falling short of awesome. So we need to factor these into account if we really want to have the kind of awesome success that's going to lead to clients being not only satisfied, but excited about working with us, and excited about working with us again on their next project, and again and again. And then, of course, there are technical specs related to your deliverables and your services and so forth. We look at that as well, in addition to these organizational factors. So one size fits all, like I mentioned before, folks are consultants, especially early on, tend to grab onto one thing like hourly rates or day rates or what have you, and they lock into that, and as a result, they miss out on opportunities, and sometimes they miss out on opportunities that could actually be beneficial, very much more beneficial to them than what they think normal it looks like. So let me give you an example, because it may not be intuitive without some sort of an example. So let's look at this. So we've got a consultant whose normal rate is $150 an hour, right? And that's what they like to charge. They've figured out that makes sense for them. And so they say to the client, my rate is $150. And the client says, well, that's more than what we pay. And let's say they get into a conversation about it, and the consultant finds out that the client normally pays about $100 an hour. Now, some consultants would say, okay, I will lower my rate to $100 an hour, or they'll try to negotiate a middle ground, or they'll say, no, 150 or nothing, and they walk away. Regardless of which of those three approaches you go with, you're losing, right? You as a consultant are losing something, because the client's probably not going to pay the 150. And so you either going to lose the project or you're going to have to lower your rate. And that's sometimes will happen, but we want to avoid having that happen, and having a better understanding of rate structures will enable you to be more flexible. So if you look at this down here, at the lower half of this example here, the client is willing to pay $100 at $100 hours, because I think that's 100 hours is reasonable for the type of work, the scope of work we're talking about. And so they're willing to pay $10,000 for this, assuming 100 hours and $100 an hour. So what if you were to take that on, but as a fixed fee project, a deliverable based rate of $10,000? So the client's going to pay you $10,000. Don't worry, client, about the rate, the hourly rate. Don't worry about the number of hours I work. I will take on the risk that it will take more than 100 hours. But I also am taking the chance that maybe I can do it faster. And if I feel very confident in myself and my abilities, and I feel like I'm very efficient, and I typically find that I can do things probably twice as fast as the average bear, then maybe this is a better way for me to go. Because what if I'm so efficient that I can get it done in half the time? And so that $10,000 divided by 50 hours is actually $200 an hour. So not only did I win the project and make the client happy and came in at their $10,000 rate that they wanted, but I was able to actually make an effective rate of $200 an hour on my time, which is higher than my normal rate. And see, this wouldn't be possible if I just focused on hourly rates, right? But if I can change the conversation to focus more on the total dollars, right? And I can be efficient, and I have processes and systems, and I have the capability to be more efficient, then this can work out really well for me. Now, if I'm not efficient, if it takes me 200 hours to get this work done, then it's not going to work out very well for me at all, right? And the client's probably not going to be happy either. So that this approach doesn't work in every case. You have to tailor the approach that you take to your rate structure to each deal. And so there's a science to it, and there's an art to it. And in the course we get into that, and we walk through lots of different examples and look at different rate structures, including ones that are not included here. So there's a need for flexibility, and the only way you can be flexible is if you educate yourself on the different ways that rate structures can be set up, and that you understand your costs well enough to be able to move the pieces around, right? Otherwise, if you don't have that confidence, and you don't have those capabilities, and you don't have the knowledge, it's difficult for you to do anything but just stay at a very basic rate, at a very basic understanding. Like, here's my hourly rate, here's my day rate, and that's it. I can't handle any more complexity than that. If that's the case, you're going to have a hard time growing your business. So the next one, blindfolded on a bridge. So this is one that's all about not having enough visibility. Your head's down, and this is a very common problem for consultants. We tend to be very heads down, and we are absorbed by the work that we do. If you're a graphic designer, you want to be spending your time designing graphics. If you're a website builder, developer, you want to be building websites. You're an OD consultant. You want to be doing whatever it is OD people do, right? So you want to be doing the work, and so you're going to be heads down focused on that, and that's great. But as a business owner, and whether you're an independent consultant or you have a small practice with a few other people or you have a big firm, regardless, as a business owner, you have to pop your head up and look around. And you can't allow yourself to be blindfolded and wandering around on the bridge blindfolded, because you know what happens. You're eventually going to fall in the river, right? You're going to fall because you're going to bump into stuff because you're not paying attention to what's going on around you. And so there are 5 factors that I focus on with market scanning in the course. So one is the overall economy, right? The global economy more and more, because more and more of our clients are competing in a global marketplace, and we as consultants are also competing in a global marketplace. So we have to scan the economy. We have to scan what's going on in the client's industries, or the industries that we deal in, right? So I spend a lot of time in the pharmaceutical industry, the health sciences, the financial services, brokerage, and insurance in particular, banking, right, and technology sector. So these are different industries that I serve. And so I have to monitor what's going on there. How is the economy impacting them? What are some things that are unique to their situations? Some industries are growing, others are contracting. Some are going through consolidation and companies are buying each other up. Others are going through the opposite experience. So lots of things that you kind of need to monitor and find efficient ways to do that, because you don't want to spend all of your time doing that either, right? So we have to find efficient ways to monitor what's going on in the economy and the industry, but also what's going on with our clients. We need to have ways of getting information about what's happening in the client organization. And it's difficult for those of us who are not on site with the client every day to see what's going on. There are some consultants who work on site full time. That's great in that it gives you a lot of visibility into what's going on with that client. But oftentimes for those folks who are working so closely in the trenches with the client, they may have a hard time scanning what's going on outside that client organization because they're so wrapped up in that one client. And that's dangerous as well. So all of us, have challenges as it relates to market scanning. And then there's what's going on with you, right? Your financial situation, your personal financial situation, as well as your business's financial situation, and your not only your financial situation, but your bandwidth, your utilization, all sorts of other factors that you need to look at internally. That you should be monitoring on a day-to-day basis. And this is stuff that business owners do all the time, right? They monitor what's going on out there, and they monitor what's going on in here, inside of our organization, inside of our little business, and then take that into account as they go out into the marketplace and compete for business and price their services. And then, of course, there's competitors, which you also have to keep an eye on. And the competitive landscape is constantly changing, especially more and more these days. We have new technologies coming in, disruptive technologies coming into the marketplace. There are new competitors sprouting up all over the place in just about every professional services sector is going through some disruptive change at the moment. And if you're not, you probably already have, or you will be. So you have to monitor what's going on in the competitive landscape. What competitors are on the rise. And sometimes competitors are not people, right? They may not be people that the other consultants you're competing against. You may be competing against a whole nother technology, whole nother approach, a way of doing things. You may be competing against people, and they may be here locally, or they may be overseas. They may be consultants that are from another industry that are coming in, that are creeping into your industry, into your specialty. So you have to monitor these things and take them into account as you run your business. So where do we get that kind of information? So I often ask consultants, where do you get your information? And because this is really about espionage, basically. It's and not to use it as a bad word, but it's about gathering intelligence. And so there are a lot of different ways to do it. But with consultants, what I typically find is what works well for us is in most professional services sectors, there are industry groups that specialize in that particular set of services, and they go out and already gather a lot of benchmark data on what's going on in the industry, what's going on with different clients, and what's going on with competitors, and what's going on with pricing even. So it's a great idea to go out and see what's already available through your industry organization. So for me, SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management, there's ATD, Association for Talent Development, and other organizations, eLearning Guild, all of them are constantly churning out research. And so I try to consume as much of that as I can so that I can monitor what's going on. The other is going out and Googling, right? The Google competitors, Google clients. You can actually even find pricing information online. And I try to follow my clients. I also follow my competitors on LinkedIn, on Twitter, because I want to see what they're putting out into the world in terms of updates and stuff. So that helps me monitor what's going on with them. So I Google individuals and I Google organizations, but I also on an ongoing basis will follow them. Then the other is your network. You have to, if you're a consultant, you have to have a good network. And if you don't, you have to build a network. And that should be a very, very big part of your life as a consultant, as an independent consultant, or as an entrepreneur of a small firm or a big firm. You need to be spending a lot of time building your network of colleagues, not just clients, prospective clients and so forth, but colleagues, people who you can talk to about what's going on, right? You can gather ideas from them, you can share information with them, and you can get a better picture of what's going on in the competitive landscape, in an industry, or with a client, et cetera. So all sorts of great information that I gather just by going out to lunch with folks, going and grabbing coffee with folks, having an occasional phone call just to catch up, or I catch up with them at conferences and other industry events. This is an important part of my life, is just interacting with colleagues, and I love it. Frankly, this is one of the favorite things about being a consultant, is going out and interacting with so many people. And then of course there are clients, right? So I have client contacts, some of which are actively working with me at the moment. Others are former clients who are no longer in a position to hire me or don't have any work for me at the moment. And then there are others who are potential clients, but are not currently clients. But anyway, they make up sort of this collection of client contacts. And again, I try to talk to them. I engage with them, not trying to sell them necessarily. I'm not really a particularly good salesperson. I just like to go out and talk to them and geek out about the stuff that we have a mutual interest in. And I find that they're usually pretty receptive about that. If I'm presenting at a conference, I'll go out and share with them slides and things like that I'm going to be using, and we talk about stuff. I ask them questions. I basically, I share information with them, and then I ask questions in return. I conduct basically what's called an informational interview. And people who are looking for jobs go out and do this all the time. They do informational interviews. But consultants sometimes don't do it, and they should. And so some of the questions that I might ask, what trends are you seeing in our industry? How's your business changed over the past couple of years? What is it about working with you that your stakeholders value the most? What needs and concerns are you most often hearing from your clients? Whether I'm talking to a client and we're talking about their internal clients, or I could be talking to a competitor and asking them what they're hearing from their clients, right? So asking these questions, none of them are particularly invasive questions, but they're questions that help us start a conversation about what's going on, right? And then I can gather all sorts of neat information, neat insights from them. And I, of course, am sharing insights with them as well. So it's a lot of give and take, So let's get here to the last one here. This is my price. Sorry. So in the course, we spend a lot of time talking about defending your pricing. It's something that we talk about in terms of things that you're going to do on an ongoing basis to defend your pricing, things that you're going to do as you're preparing your pricing, scoping and costing your pricing and having conversations with the client before you present your pricing. There's things you're going to do, right? And there's things you're going to do to bulletproof your proposal. So all that happens before the pricing. And then when you present your pricing is another time to defend your pricing. And then of course, after you present your pricing, there are going to be questions and objections and things like that to deal with. So we focus on that in the course quite a bit from all four angles. Let's just talk a little bit about what happens when you're presenting your pricing. So one of the best practices that I try to reinforce and emphasize, and I'll do it here again, is you must always, 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 always try to meet with your client to go over pricing. For some of you, that may seem obvious. Well, of course, you send that you're not just going to send them a proposal in the mail or email and then hope to hear from them. For some of you, that seems obvious, and yet that is a very, very common phenomenon. And I see it, I see it with younger consultants, but I see it with older consultants as well, more experienced ones who should know better, frankly. And I've done it myself, where clients said, hey, can you email me the proposal? I'll take a look at it and then get back to you. And they say it with such sincerity, and I'm sure they do mean it in that moment. But more often than not, what happens is you don't hear back from them. Even if it was great, you may not hear back from them just because other stuff happened in their organization. Things, there's just crazy stuff is going on in their organization. They get distracted. And so your proposal just sits there and collects dust, but you don't know. You don't know why you didn't hear back from them. You just know that you didn't hear back from them. And it's frustrating because you don't have the opportunity to defend your pricing if you don't have the opportunity to talk. So what I do is I try to always get a phone call, at least, with the client to go over the proposal. And I try to get agreement to that and get that scheduled before I agree to send them the proposal. Right? So this is a point of negotiation that's starting even at this point, right? Where it's not that I tell them, I'm not going to send you the proposal unless you have a call with me. I tell them, it's like, look, I'm going to put a proposal together and I would like to have a call with you to go over it and discuss it and make sure that you understand what my rationale is, because I'm sure you're probably going to have to go back and talk to your internal stakeholders about it. And usually they understand, why we need to talk. And so we'll set that up. We'll set up a phone call. And if you don't do it, you just wasted a whole lot of time probably putting together a really nice proposal, and you've agonized over your pricing for hours. And now you just send it off into the abyss. You can't do that. So if you got nothing else out of this webinar today, make sure you, as a standing policy, and make sure that anytime you're going to send a proposal out, you have a meeting on the books, and you don't send that proposal out a week or days in advance of the meeting. You send it out shortly before the meeting so that they have a chance to look at it, but not so much of a chance that they don't need the meeting, right? That they cancel the meeting. So, and then the other thing is, going back to the building your confidence, is having a standard process by which you walk people through your proposal, right? So having a standard proposal template is good, and having a flow, but having kind of a standard agenda that you use, and the one that I teach here in the course is this one here. So start with the business needs and requirements always, right? Make sure that the conversation is grounded in your understanding of what the client is trying to achieve. That demonstrates that you're a good listener, demonstrates that you're a good consultant because you're focused on business outcomes and not just on the work, right? You got to start there. And that forces you also to focus on that as well, if that's going to be your first thing you're going to talk about. And then after each of these steps, you check for understanding. Does what I just said make sense? Is it in alignment with your understanding as well, right? That these are the business needs we're trying to solve. Then go over your proposed solution if that's relevant. Sometimes the client will, and you and the client will have agreed to a solution in advance, or the client will tell you, I need this. And so there's not too much to propose there. But if there is a solution that you're needing to propose, then you go over that next after requirements. And there again, check for understanding, make sure they understand the solution you're trying to propose, and check for questions, check for objections, and make sure that they agree with the solution before you move forward. Because if the solution doesn't make sense, the rest of the proposal is not going to make sense either. So if the solution does make sense and you got agreement there, then move on to the deliverables and services. So what is exactly am I, as a consultant, going to be responsible for delivering to you, the client? And so there's that. And then what resources are we going to involve in the project? If you have named resources, you can identify at that point. You identify them, provide bios, go over that as well. Make sure the client is comfortable with the people who are going to be doing the work. And then the process that you're going to be going through. So what are the major steps in this process? Don't need necessarily a project plan, detailed, that level of detail, but you do need to have some sense of what the process is, and the client needs to understand that what your game plan is and how you're going to tackle the work and what the timeframes are going to be. And there again, you go through all that, and then you check for understanding, check for alignment. And again, if something's missing here, maybe you missed a deliverable, or you said that you thought that they needed 10 of these widgets and they actually only need 5. It's good to get that nailed down before you move into pricing, because then that enables you to revise your pricing on the fly if you need to, if some of that changes. And then the last piece, of course, is your pricing and the rationale for your pricing. So you need to explain how you came up with the numbers. I find it's very obnoxious when a consultant sends out a proposal with like just a single line number, like $50,000. We're going to do all this at $50,000. It's like, well, what am I getting for $50,000? Like, how does that break down, right? By deliverable, by resource, by whatever. Like, I need to have some sense of what that $50,000 means. But it is considered kind of a power play in the consulting field that comes from some of the big firms like the McKinseys and Deloittes of the world, when you just put a single dollar figure on a piece of paper and give it to the client. Say, there you go, $50,000. And there was a time when that sort of approach worked okay. If you have that kind of relationship with the client, great. But most clients these days, they want to see a breakdown and they want to understand what your thought process was. So you certainly try to put as much of that on paper as you can, but then the rest you have to explain verbally. And that's part of why you need this meeting. And then this last check is a critical one, because you need to check to make sure they understand your pricing and the rationale you used. And you need to check to see, initially, what's their first reaction to it. Are you way off the mark from their expectations? Are you in the ballpark? What are their concerns? And at that point, if you can start to get some of the concerns out on the table, then that's when you can start to deal with them. But if you can't get concerns out because you never had this meeting, then you'll never have the opportunity to defend your pricing, and that stinks. But anyway, if you can stick to this sort of process, it's a process that reinforces you, right? That helps you build confidence as you build up to the pricing conversation. Because it's rooted in the things that you're most comfortable in, right? Starting with the business needs, the solution, the deliverables, the resources, the process. These are all things that you know very well, or should know, right? If you're a good consultant, you know these things very well. And so get that stuff nailed down and build confidence. And the client's probably going to be very happy too if things are going well and you're in your zone. By the time you get to pricing, you and the client are both going to be on a good footing to start talking about this pricing stuff. And then from there, again, there are other techniques for how you build confidence and respond confidently to objections and things like that. But anyway, this hopefully gives you a start in terms of defending your pricing. So those are the 5 pricing pitfalls. Those are some techniques for dealing with them. The course covers a lot more, obviously, than what we have time for now. But hopefully it gives you start to see that there are some techniques here that you can use to combat these pricing pitfalls. And what I suggest to people is these techniques are great in isolation by themselves, but when they're put together into a pricing system and systematized and sort of institutionalized in your business, they become much more powerful. And so one of the things that I try to do with the Pricing Your Services course is help people build a pricing system. And what good is that? Well, by having it systematized, you'll be able to respond more quickly to clients. When the client has a need, they say, I need this. You'll be able to turn around a proposal very quickly, and a proposal that you can feel good about, that you can be confident in. And then when you're in conversations, you'll be able to respond more quickly and change course. If something's not right, you'll be able to make changes on the fly more confidently because you have a system in place and you have a deep understanding of what's going on. It also enables me to leverage my time. So I'm not spending as much of my time doing proposal writing because a lot of things are already pre-baked and they're all part of my system. So I'm able to then crank out stuff more quickly and spend less time doing proposal writing, more time doing the actual work, which is really what I enjoy doing. So it leverages my time, and then it gives me visibility. My system gives me visibility into what's going on, both on the client side in terms of my relationship. It also gives me, I have a much deeper understanding of my costs and my profitability than I think the average consultant does. And I'm able to now predict over, because I've been doing this for years now, I'm able to predict pretty confidently what the profitability is going to be on a given project. And that's very, very helpful. And having that visibility into the numbers is incredibly valuable. And any business leader will tell you that that's one of the biggest challenges they have, is actually getting visibility into their numbers. This pricing system that I've developed will give you the kind of visibility that you need to run your business effectively. And then because I have this visibility, and I've got, I have the details in hand and mastered them. I have this deep understanding of my costs and what it takes to get the work done and so forth. And that gives me a tremendous amount of confidence. If I didn't have that, if I had to just respond to people on the fly without having a good handle on my costs, it would be hard. No matter how confident a person I am, it would be difficult to have confidence as it relates to my pricing. And so I think for any of us, no matter how unconfident you are, when you have mastery over the details, you become more confident. And this system will enable you to master those important details. And then lastly, it's enabled me to grow my practice. And going back to that one size fits all thing, by having more sophisticated understanding of how everything works, my processes and my costs, I'm able to be more flexible and shift around and be more creative when it comes to putting a deal together, to structuring a deal in a way that's going to make the client happy and still enable us to be profitable. And so that has enabled me to grow my practice in a much more efficient and effective way than what I was doing before. And I think over time I've gotten more sophisticated in the way that I approach my business as a result of the system. So how do we build this pricing system? So there are kind of three general lanes that we will travel down in the Pricing Your Services course. There's the upfront preparation, which is all about knowing yourself, knowing the market, knowing the value, thy value, not the value. And you'll see there's a number of little steps in here, which don't need to worry about right now, but these are all things that are covered in the course. So under knowing yourself, thyself, creating a personal budget so that you know how much money you need to take out of the business, estimating startup costs, creating a business budget so that you know how much your business needs to earn in order to cover your business costs and leave enough money for your personal expenses. So, and then from all that, being able to set some financial goals, very basic ones. You don't have to get too fancy right now if you have a small business, but just enough to, having a good understanding of your costs will help you set some financial goals that make sense. And then then using the rates and utilization analysis that we do, you can start to figure out how billable do you need to be? How many hours a year do you need to bill? And roughly at what rate, what average rate do you need to be billing at in order to hit the kind of financial goals that you set? So having a good handle on these 5 things, it gives you a good foundation for moving forward. And then you build onto that market intelligence that you've gathered, so you understand what's going on in the marketplace with your competitors, your clients, your industries that you serve, and the economy. And your own value because you've gone through the value proposition work, right? And you've built value propositions and tailored them to different audience segments that you have. Now you're in a position to really set your rate structure, and your rate structure is going to be a very fluid thing that, it's going to be a solid structure, but one that has flexibility to it so that it enables you to move in different directions so that you can find the right pricing structure for a particular deal that will meet the client's needs and meet your needs. So that's the upfront preparation stuff that really any business owner, any consultant anyway, who owns a business is going to need to do in one way or another in order to do this right. Then for each project, there's some bottom-up estimation that's required and some top-down estimation. So bottom-up estimation refers to looking at your costs and coming up with a price based on that. Top-down estimation means looking at what the deal will bear and trying to come up with a price based on that. But you need to do both, right? Because if you look at one and not the other, you get yourself into trouble. So bottom estimation starts with scoping the client's needs, making sure you have a good understanding of what what their business needs are, what deliverables and services needed, and understanding the risk and complexity. Then estimating the work effort based on that understanding of the client's needs, estimating your project costs, and then from that, you can estimate your pricing. And that pricing is based on a bottom-up estimation. But then there's also pricing that's based on top-down estimation. So that's based on market intelligence, what you know about the client, what you know about the competitors in this particular space for this particular deal, and what you know about your own situation, right? So all that together adds up to answering the question, what will this deal bear, right? And once you have those 2 price points, like what is a good price that's going to cover my costs, and what's a price that this deal can bear, now you try to find a place, hopefully they match up pretty well, and if they don't, you try to find a happy middle ground. And as part of doing that, then you're going to apply some sort of pricing strategy to come up with your pricing structure, and then you have to go present that to your client and defend it. Right? So this is something you're going to be learning to do for each project that you are bidding on. And that's basically the process that I will teach you, and I provide you tools all along the way to help you do it. And then on an ongoing basis, you need to sharpen your tools, and you need to invest in your sales collateral. So as your business grows, maybe right now you're just a one-person shop doing freelance work, but you have aspirations to grow a consulting business. And so in order to do that, and in order to grow your consulting business in size and scope and scale, you're going to need to have scalable tools that help you along the way. So we'll teach you how to do that, how to build pricing models, estimation models that help you very quickly get to a price and get to an estimation of what your costs are going to be without having to do as much of the detailed bottom-up estimation, right? So it can help you bypass some of that work that we just talked about. And then you need to invest in your sales collateral. Have a bunch of stuff that's ready to go so that when an opportunity shows up at your door, you can respond to it quickly by pulling a few things off the shelf, slapping them together, making some customizations, and then you can get that out the door quickly, right? And whereas some people take a week or two to respond with a proposal, I can usually do it like in a couple hours. And that's because I have a lot of things already, a lot of collateral already sitting around waiting to be used, right? And because also I've set up my business so that everything's focused on my value proposition. So all my collateral is built around my value proposition. And if my clients are coming to me because of my value proposition, then it's very easy to find collateral that reflects that, right? Because everything is focused. And when you're focused, you can have high impact and have scalability. When you're not focused and you're scattered, then it's difficult to scale up your business because you're always reinventing the wheel. And so on an ongoing basis, what I try to do is refine my system so that I'm not reinventing the wheel every time. So that's my pricing system. And I mean, you don't have to take the course. Now you know what it is. You can go off and do this yourself. The course, though, is there to help you if you don't know how to do these things for yourself, to provide you with the tools, to provide you with the guidance and the demonstrations and so forth. And so let me just give you a rundown of the Pricing Your Services courses, because it's really a collection of courses. It's a curriculum, a program. And there are 13 different courses that will eventually make up the Pricing Your Services program. So the first one is a primer that's really just designed to, it's a free one, by the way. So you'll be able to, starting on February 2nd, it'll launch, and there'll be a free primer that people can go in and take and get the basics, much of what we've talked about so far, plus a little bit more. And then the next course is the Establish Your Budget course. So this is course 2. Course 3, Establish Your Rate Structure. So these 2 courses help you establish that foundation, the things that you need to do prior to looking at individual projects. And then courses 4 and 5 deal with scoping, costing, and pricing, and defending your pricing. And so these 2 courses then build on top of that foundation. These first 5 courses together make up what we call the Essentials Bootcamp. And that, really provides the foundation for everything that you're going to do with pricing. Everything else then just builds on that and refines on it. So then course 6, we have a consultant panel discussion. So we're going to have consultants. I've got how many? 7 consultants that I've interviewed, and I'm putting together the outputs of those interviews in the form of a panel discussion, much like you would see at a conference or something like that, where we basically pose the same question to each panelist and let them respond. And each of them kind of comes from a different background. Some are from big consulting firms, some are from small ones, and some of them are individual freelancers. And so it's interesting to see the different perspectives they take, the different insights that they share, and the stories that they'll tell. I think you're going to find the panel discussion to be very, very valuable. Then we get into writing your statements of work. So you've got pricing, which is great. That's an important piece of your statement of work. But then there's the rest of your statement of work that needs to be written. And so that course will focus on how you put the whole thing together into a proposal document. And we'll provide a template for that as well. Building your estimation model. So here, now you want to take pricing that you've done for one client, and you want to, or 1 or 2 or 3 clients, and you want to take that and turn it into a model that then you can use to predict pricing based on different variables that come up for future projects that come in that are similar in nature. So I'll teach you how to do that, how to set that up. I'll give you examples. We'll walk through different examples that of models and tools that we've created. Many of them in Excel, and just show you how to do that and what the thought process is, and walk you through it so that you're able to build some of those for your own business. And then building sales collateral, I'll show you, basically I'll open up the books and show you everything that we do, everything that we've built, from what we call cap clips to brochures to portfolio, all kinds of different assets that we've created to support our proposal writing. And then we get into and by the way, those 4 courses 6, 7, 8, and 9 added to the first 5 will make up what we call the professional class. So this is really for people who are moving quickly beyond being a one-person shop in expanding their consulting practice. They're going to have a bunch of people, maybe freelancers working for them, or employees or partners. You need to be able to scale up and be able to refine your system much more quickly. And so the courses are really designed to help you accelerate that process. And then the last 4, 10, 11, 12, and 13, these are part of the masterclass series. And they're for people who are going to be doing a lot of proposal writing, especially proposals in response to formal requests for proposals, formal requests for information, requests for quotes that clients will put out. So we'll kind of teach you how to navigate that process. And to start that off, we're going to have a client panel discussion where I've interviewed so far 4 clients. These are 4 business leaders who hire consultants. And we're going to get their perspective on what they look for in consultants, what they like and don't like, and so forth. Very, very powerful stuff, very insightful. And I think you're gonna just love that. Actually being able to hear from real clients, their perspective and the things that are important to them. That way that it can help you with your value proposition and make sure that you're focused on what's really valuable to them as you write your proposals. And so we'll teach you how to write proposals, how to write effective proposals, how to write winning proposals, really, then how to present those in the way that gives you your best chances of success. We'll certainly go over a lot of pitfalls, a lot of issues that will come up during the writing and the presentation process. And then let's say you win the deal. Hopefully you will win the deal. If you're learning how to write and present them effectively, you're going to win some of these deals, but then you still have to negotiate the contract. And so at this point, you're exhausted in this process. You just want to get started with the project, but now you got to go through this negotiation process with the client and possibly with procurement. So we're gonna help you navigate that negotiation around your contracts. And so that's going to be an important capstone to all this is, once you've closed the deal, now you got to finalize everything and finalize it in a way that's sustainable for your little business, right? Your client, procurement comes back to you and tells you they want you to knock off 10% off your pricing, and they want 120-day terms, and how do you deal with that, right? So we'll talk about that. So that's the Pricing Your Services program. You can see it's going to be pretty big, 13 courses. Each course, will have multiple hours worth of videos and all sorts of stuff. So let's take a peek inside. So when you buy one of these courses, even the primer, let's say you register for the primer, even though it's free, you're going to go in and it's going to look just like every other course. You're going to have an outline, and then you can go in and you can start watching any of these videos. The formats will vary, but we have talking head video of me as well as the people that I interview. You'll have narrated screencasts similar to what we've got going on right now, right? And in these screencasts, we can demonstrate how to use the different tools, the spreadsheets and so forth, and walk through different examples. And then we've got narrated PowerPoint slides, which is what I'm doing right now. And then screen text with images. And then we do these picture-in-picture effects, right? Where sometimes you'll see my head floating on top of the content and sometimes content floating inside of the little video windows. So, you have a mix of different presentation formats. There'll be a workbook that you can download. It's a PDF, and that workbook will contain the slides. It'll contain talking points. So if you don't want to listen to me, you can read it. Although, I do cover other stuff that's not in here. But and then there's place in here for your notes. So you can take this PDF, download it, and print it if you like, and then use it for note taking. It's up to you how you want to use it, but we wanted to make that available to you. And then the interviews that I mentioned, here are the folks that I've interviewed so far. Some pretty amazing people with a lot of experience. Dave Manning from PDG, Paul Schneider from Domino, Rich Way from Delta Point, Jeff Dorman, a Gazelle's consultant, Belen, who works with me as our creative director. She's a freelance consultant as well. And Mike Noble, who's the Chief Learning Officer for Allen Communications. I mean, these are people who have a lot of experience, years of experience as consultants, but also years of experience working on pricing. And then in addition, you've got the clients, the people who, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention Gary Stewart up here as well, also another freelancer. But then we also have these clients of Bonnie Bell, John Shaw, Jim Williams, Karen Basil. These are people who hire consultants. And so we've asked them to share with us their perspective. And John Shaw actually has a unique perspective in that his company provides software for procurement professionals. So they work very closely with procurement professionals. So I went in, and while I had John and we were talking about this, I asked him a lot of questions about how to handle procurement people, right? And how they deal with them, and really what does life look like from the procurement professionals' point of view. So you'll get a lot of that kind of insight in the course, which I think is amazing. Amazing. It really is. Maybe some of the best stuff is the stuff that I'm not talking about, but rather they're talking about. And then there's the toolkit. Spreadsheets, mostly spreadsheets. There'll be maybe some Microsoft Word documents as you go further along, and we get into like the SOW template and proposal template and stuff. But initially in the Essentials Bootcamp, you're going to get 7 different spreadsheets, plus a few bonus ones, and then there'll be assignments that'll be optional. But I encourage you to do them, and that'll come at the end of each section. There'll be assignments for you to go off and work on your own and come back. And we'll encourage you to post comments, which you can do through the site, and I'll always respond. And hopefully you guys will also respond to each other and start to build a small but growing community of consultants who are looking to grow their business. And hopefully you guys will help each other out. That's what I'm hoping for. To build a community there. So just going back to the structure here. So we've got 13 modules. Here's the price per unit. So you can buy any of these by themselves, or you will be starting on February 2nd. You can buy any one of these by themselves. $59 for, you see, course 2, $59 for course 3. Then the price goes up. And it continues to go up, as get to the courses that are a bit more higher in complexity and value and so forth in terms of what they can do for your business. And then we have these bundles. So the Essentials Bootcamp, you'll be able to get these first 5 courses. I mean, the first one's free. So the next 4 on top of that, you'll be able to get them for $199. So you'll save some money there. If you want to buy them individually, you can, but if you buy them in a package, in a bundle, you save some money. And then as the Courses 6 through 9 roll out. We'll also roll out this professional class bundle, which will be $500, which will include $499, which will include all of the first 9 courses. Again, nice savings there. And then the master class, when that rolls out, will include all of the courses, all of the modules for $999. So, and again, some savings there. So hopefully you will take advantage of that. But if you buy the Essentials Bootcamp, which is finished now, it's ready to roll. February 2nd, it rolls out. But if you buy now before February 2nd, so Monday, midnight, this deal expires. If you buy now, you'll get that Essentials Bootcamp for $99. But you got to buy now. If you wait till February 2nd, the price will go up to $199. So for that $99, you'll get those courses that we talked about. You'll get the workbook. You'll get the 7 spreadsheets. And I'm also throwing in as a bonus, you're going to get some consultant panel discussion interviews in there. And then you also get some client interviews. I threw that in as well. Not all of them, but you'll get a taste of it, and you're going to be amazed when you hear some of that stuff. So how to enroll? Go to academy.presterafx.com. You'll see this page. Click on Enroll Course, and enroll for the $99, and then you'll be asked for credit card information and so forth. You can do PayPal, and you're good to go. So if you have questions, please shoot me an email. I'm at gus@presterafx.com, gus@presterafx.com, which you probably already have my email address. So please drop me a note. Send me whatever questions you have. I'll be happy to answer them either via email or if it's something broader that I think other people would want to know about, I will blast it out to others as well. So anyway, well, thank you so much for hanging in there and watching this with me. And hopefully I will see you soon in class. Take care.